Hello everybody, this is Backlash. This is Pro Cycling Manager 2019. So I hope that you're going to enjoy this. So I'll try and give you a bit of a view of what's going on, if I can work out what's going on. Basically, I'm looking to see what the team want me to do on there. Yeah, we're not that bothered about doing what the team want me to do. We're going to try and win a few maybe mountainy bits or a few sprinty bits, but the first thing I need to do is get to the front because we're going to try and get in the breakaway today. This is it's a fairly new game to me. You can play it as a professional rider, which is what I'm doing right now, where you control the one guy and you control how he rides, how fast, how slow, that sort of thing. Or you can play as a team manager where you control all the guys in the team. So if you look at the top left hand corner, there's a big list of the riders that are in my team. You can see my name there. I'm just hovering over the sprint. So there we go. I've told him to sprint. Off we go. We're trying to form a breakaway.
A surprise attack! He's probably just trying to force his teammates away from the bunch.
Well, not my teammates.
Several riders are attempting to break away.
I know. I'm one of them. So there we go. So we've formed a little breakaway there. You can see bottom middle where it's got P.
Some team managers mustn't appreciate the fact that there is a breakaway.
That's peloton, and it shows how many riders are in that peloton. And then the group on the right, the E1 group, that's my group, and it shows how many people are in there. If you look at the top right hand corner, it's got my name, Fall Off W. My character's name is Will Fall Off, which he has done. And what that shows is how much I'm working towards the effort of our little breakaway. So it's got some figures in red which show the effort I should be putting in. If you look at the top left where I've got my box where it's got all my health bars and things, in the bottom right hand corner of that it tells you the effort that I'm actually putting in up there. You can see that I can control how much effort I put in, and therefore how much health or energy I've got. Now, if you look at my health bars, there's a yellow and green one at the top, yellow and blue one, and then there's a red one. So the red one is like your immediate health, and it sort of shows how much you could sprint, really. The top one is more of a long-term health thing, so where it's got yellow and blue up there in the top middle. I'm just trying to recover that by riding slower. So I'm trying to ride within myself so that yellow bar comes back up. If you exert yourself over a period of time, that yellow bar runs down and you run out of energy. You can recoup it by coming off the gas a little bit. Whereas the red one is more of a how long can you sprint for? The green one underneath, I'm not quite sure what it is. The help on this game is rubbish. There's no real tutorial. The help is awful. The green one seems to be like an overall energy thing, but I've never seen any use for it or what it might be.
More than 2 minutes ahead of the peloton. Look, the pack has taken its foot off the gas. The team leaders can't be too worried about the breakaway.
Well, I'm not worried about it. I'm in it. So you can see that there's different options of things that I can do there. So on the right hand side, there's a thing that looks like a bike with an explosion out the back of it. Just to a bit right of where the cursor is now. It shows that's my sprint button. I can set the guy off to sprint, and of course, because my red bar is full where my cursor is, I could sprint for my maximum amount of time. The next one is hold position. It doesn't really hold a position. It holds a position within the group that you're in. So it tends to sort of fluctuate a little bit backwards and forwards with that. The one after that it's kind of, you can set your pace. So irrespective of what everybody else is doing, if you click on that button, you can then choose whether you want to be going 100% flat out or a bit less than that, as I am at the moment, as I'm trying to just get my energy back up. The next one, the one that's lit up yellow, is relay. So that if you're in a group like this, a small group of 5 people, we will relay. So you see the guys dropped off the front. So the guy in pink is now leading. He'll stay at the front for a little while, and then he'll drop off. And this is where it's important that you're you're looking at the box on the top right hand corner. So where it says W fall off, it's got a couple of numbers to the right of that, and I should be putting effort in within those numbers. If I am, it's green as it is now, and it's now gone yellow, so it shows that I'm not quite. And that just sort of means that you're pulling your weight. The rest of the guys in the group will be happy with you, that sort of thing. The one next to that, where it's got sort of a relay thing, is it's called infinite relay. So when you get to the front of this little group, you will stay there. You won't come off the front. You'll just stay there. And that's useful if you want to maybe stay at the front because you know there's a sprint coming or something like that, and you want to be there at the front for the little dash towards the line. The next one is to call for water bottles. Now it's a bit of a nonsense really. You can see on the left hand side where my health bars are, there's a little water bottle symbol in there in the bottom middle of my health bars, and this shows when my water bottles run out. If I press to collect water bottles on the right, then he just sticks his arm up and some water bottles arrive magically. So it's a bit of a nonsense really. Also in the box on the top is my heart rate, which is again a bit of a nonsense. It's not really used for anything. There's a heart symbol next to that, and it shows there's a little box with 3 white bars in it. At the moment it's showing the bottom white bar. You'll see that moving up and down throughout the ride, and that is basically where I am within the group. So at the minute I'm in the middle of the group, so it's showing in the middle of the 3 white bars, and as I move up it will show me at the front of the group. At the top of that is a number, a green number, a +1. That is how well I'm feeling today, and it just means I'm feeling pretty good, and I should do quite well in the race. It'll mean that I'll recoup my energy quite well. I've had races where that's been minus, and I've had races where I've been injured and it's shown as a medical cross, you know, a sort of a red ambulance sort of thing, you know. A red ambulance, what's that? Red Cross or an ambulance
seems to have woken
symbol.
up, and now they're gaining ground. The breakaway is not to everybody's liking. The peloton has significantly increased its speed.
So when I've had like the Red Cross, when my yellow bar's gone down, my energy bar, it's not recovered very well. It's taken ages to actually get back up. So it's been. It is quite important, that +1, -1, +2, +3. That is quite important. You can see that reflected in the bottom left hand corner. In the bottom left hand corner is just an overview of the things I've already been through. So you've got my health bars in there. It's also got some other bits, like there's +1s in there, and it just shows how well I'm going to do on my climbing or sprinting. What I'm doing now is I'm just looking through the teams and the various other things. So those were my objectives, those are the important things that have happened in the race, and those are the keys. You bring this up by pressing the space bar.
The pace is really hot, so for the moment, we shouldn't see too many attacks.
And you can see a map of the stage, but again, that's in the bottom right hand corner. You can just see it a bit closer. So in the bottom right hand corner, we do have a map of the stage. It shows that we're about to enter a slightly hilly
This climb is
section.
feared by many riders. The percentages are very high.
Yeah. So we're seeing a hilly section. If you hover over that and click on it, you get a closer view of where you are. Again, it's not that useful right now. Some stages will have sprints on them, and they will show on there. Also, some stages will have mountain top, where you get points for crossing the top of the mountain first. So that's King of the Mountain jersey. And it's important when you're looking at maybe trying to keep a jersey or something like that, or even if you're planning a breakaway at some point during a stage. So you think, well, actually I'm a good climber. Again, in the bottom left, if you look at mine, there's a HIL, I think, which is for hills, going up hills, and then there's I think it's MTN or mountain or something like that. I can't actually see the screen very well from here, so that's why I don't know exactly. It's the way I'm recording the sound on this video. There's another one like mountain, and that shows I'm pretty good at mountains. It's in green, that one. So I am pretty good at mountains, but however today no mountain stages, no sprints. We've just got a breakaway and we're hoping to get to the end and see what happens at the end. Hopefully the peloton won't catch us and we'll see what happens there. So as you can see from the game, it's quite a pretty game, although the graphics do have some really weird things. You can see the draw, where it's drawing the actual bushes and things, or where it's filling in more shadow as you get closer, and I don't like that. It's if you look at sort of trees near the road that are far away, you can see when the shadows appear on them and things, and it's not very realistic like that. The helicopter shots are fantastic. They look really beautiful. The other camera views that you can get, so you can get views from like the Outriders or from the sprints. You can have a fixed camera at those. They're not that useful. You spend most of your time here, and occasionally if you're bored you'll look at the helicopter shot, but that's about it. The countryside does change depending on whether you're in mountains or you do get lakes and rivers. You go through towns which are quite pretty, and you get all sorts. So there is quite a variety. It's just that there's little things like that draw distance.
They're moving along at a fair lick. You've just got to hang on.
There's other things like you'll see people who are floating. You'll see them where they're stood with their feet through pavements. I've seen people in the middle of a car. I've also seen things like the road floating. When you go around a sharp corner up a hill, you'll sometimes see the edge of the road floating above the greenery. The spectators aren't very realistic, so there's about 7 on each stage that are repeated, and you'll sometimes see them clapping, sometimes they'll be waving, but most of the time 90% of the people just stood there, just not looking. Some of them aren't even facing the road, so especially on corners you'll see people facing completely the wrong way. It's just the way it is. Some of it's beautiful, some of it isn't. Also, there's a strange thing that happens with oh look, this is the overhead camera view. It does actually look quite pretty there. I've got 2 other real problems with this game. So the first one is the gaps aren't realistic. So you can be right behind a set of riders. So where I am with the camera now, behind this group, it might show that as 17 seconds. These are the different camera views. So this is a static camera that you can just place down and the peloton will come past eventually. It certainly won't be waiting a couple of minutes as it shows the gap. Here's the next set of riders coming through now. So what was that? 20 seconds? Apparently that's not what the gap is according to the thing at the bottom. Yes, so the 2 of those are the growing fields on the right hand side. Look at those yellow things there, or the tan coloured things. So if you look at the crops on the right, they're growing. They appear to be growing. They'll be non-existent, like the one in front of us, or the one on the right. Watch it now. Watch the crops grow. You can just see them springing up. It's totally unrealistic. And it's really, really annoying. When you're playing this game and you notice something like that, you can't then not notice it. And the final thing is the time difference. In that you'll see people, and apparently the gap will be 3 minutes, but then you'll be able to see them up the road. Oh, the other option is, the other thing that bugs me with it is there is no option to increase the length of the races.
They really
These are the
moving.
magic
the
growing
pack
crops.
Can't get strung out too far, or it's going to
Look at
start
the crops
breaking
on
up.
the right. Yeah, that's not realistic at all. Yeah, there's no option to increase the length of the races.
We're into the second half of the race. The riders are going to be more and more on their guard.
So we're into the second half of the race, but it's not sort of a realistic time frame. So if we're cycling, let's say 200 kilometres or 180 kilometres, it'll take 10 minutes. You know, it's not realistic like that, and you don't have the option to change that so that you could do a more realistic race where you would see tactics with, let's say, the wind blowing strongly from the side. It just doesn't happen. You know, you just don't get those sort of tactics and things happening within the race. But apart from that, okay, there are a few bugbears like that, but apart from that, I think the game's quite pretty. We just all clipped through a bush there. Watch for people stood in barriers or not waving. You know, you'll see the same people over and over. Same guys. Some clapping, some not, but same character. The game is actually quite fun. If you're a cycling fan, I'd recommend taking a look at it. If you're not a cycling fan, there are better management games to play. Now this, as I said, is playing as a pro rider, so I'm playing as this one guy. I'm not managing the team. I'll do another video later of what it's like to manage a team, because that might be a better experience. I haven't played that yet. So as a pro rider, these are the issues that I've seen and whatnot. That's about it, really. So we're about what, 2/3?
A couple of teams have set themselves up as pacemakers for the pack. They obviously don't have anybody in the breakaway group.
We're about 2/3 of the way through the race. Because some of my objectives were to be in a breakaway or lead, and they tell you at the beginning of the race what they want you to do. I'll get more experience points for doing what they've asked me to do, as me asking for water bottles, and the water magically fills itself up, and that's that. Again, you know, if there was a bit more realistic things like that in the game, it might help. It's not a very true representation of a cycling race. So again, we're also in the lower echelons of racing here. I'm not allowed to do the Tour de France or the Giro, but when I get more experienced, I can join better teams and I can do things like that. So
some team managers mustn't appreciate the fact that there is a breakaway, given that the pack has increased its speed.
So you know, it does progress through a rider's life, really. As I said, some bits are enjoyable. I have actually enjoyed playing the game. It is very, very difficult to do well in the game. You need to work out your tactics, as it would be with a real race. You know, you get races where there's 170 riders. 170 people trying to win is not the way it's going to do it. A little bit of rubber banding there in the game. You do occasionally see that. I'm running an i7 processor with quite a lot of RAM in it and a very good graphics card, and it's still rubber bands for me. I've got the settings turned all the way up. The only thing I haven't got on is motion blur, because I'm not a fan of that in games anyway.
The pack is increasing its work rate. Some teams can't be happy with the breakaway.
So at this point now, I'm thinking about the end of the race. I'm trying to manage the gap to the peloton. So in the box
Riders
at the
are
bottom
falling
middle.
off the back. It's not a good moment to be going through a bad patch.
There you go. There's an A1 group. Those are people that have fell off the back of the peloton. And it tells you how many people are in that group.
This is the last third of the race.
It also
the team leaders
shows
have
you
their minds fixed on today's goal.
It also shows you which jerseys are in which group. So if you're in a multi-stage race, so if you're in a race that goes over several days, you can see where the King of the Mountains is, where the green jersey is. They're all highlighted on there. And again, on the left-hand side, you can see there's me in the top group, there's the peloton group, and which riders from my team are in that. And then there's an A1 group, and there's 4 riders in that, 3 riders in that one.
Seem to be okay to carry on.
Yeah. You get riders falling off. I fell off in the game. There's not a lot you can do about it. You just get up and carry on. So my biggest tactics would be to try and keep hold of your yellow health bar. So at the moment we're riding at quite a high pace. and my yellow health bar's gone down, so you can see the blue bit. So that's the thing you need to keep high. If you can keep that yellow bit high towards the end, you'll be able to sustain your pace quite a lot, and you need that for the finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into the finish soon. In the very bottom right hand corner there's a tiny box there. It's got a green thing that shows you how far to the next sprint.
It's more than 2 minutes separating them. A couple of teams have set themselves up as pacemakers for the pack. They obviously don't have anybody in the breakaway group.
And that shows you how far to the next sprint, but there's nothing there because there's no sprint. Underneath that is how far it is to the next mountain peak, and again there's no mountains in this. And then the final one is how far it is to the finish of the stage. So that's quite important. So what I tend to do is, now the one thing I've not spoke about in my health box, that's the wrong key. Maybe during the recording I had to just nip down to the door or something, but it gives me a chance to talk about the health box. Just excuse the paused game. In the in my health box, where it says -1, next to that is a funny little symbol, and that is a health gel, a gel pack. It gives you energy, so it doesn't replenish your energy at all, and it does very, very little difference. But if you use it at the right time, it can help you a lot. As I said, the red bar is for sprinting. So when you sprint, that goes down very, very quickly. If you take your gel before that, it will go down slightly slower. So you'll be able to sprint for a bit longer. So it helps then. So I find if you take that about 4 kilometers before you need it,
to cut the lead. There's a sustained rhythm at the moment.
It will
Some
help.
riders definitely will be able to keep up.
So what I'm looking at is how far is it to the end of the stage. And when we get to close, where we're about 5 kilometers away, I will take that gel. Okay, it takes a little bit to start working, and then when we get to about 1 kilometer or 1.5 kilometers, that's about when we need to start thinking about sprinting. So I'll try and leave it till it's 1 kilometer from the end, but if somebody else goes within about 1.5 kilometers, I'll have to go with them. So it gets a bit tense. So this is where you need to keep your yellow bar high and your red bar high. And as I said, your red one is your sprinting bar, your yellow one is your overall energy, your sustenance really. Yeah, there's a lot of winds in the road as well. I'd love to have seen some long straight French roads where you can see for a mile down the road or more. And again, you don't really get that. There's a lot of winding, and that's probably because they've compressed 180 kilometers into, 10-20 minutes of riding, and it's not realistic like that, and that's a bit of a pain. Oh look, see, clipping outside the barriers. Now then, there's a finish line there, and it's 10 kilometers to the finish line. Okay, so we've got more than that to do in the race. So it looks like we're going to go around this city or this town a couple of times before we're finished. There's the finishing banner down there. So I think that's the 1 kilometer banner. So it looks like we're going to do a loop around this a few times, and then we'll go down that last stretch for the final finish. So look after the yellow, look after the red by keeping
The
your
pack's
energy.
deficit is being cut back. The breakaway is not to everybody's liking. The peloton has significantly increased its speed.
They might have increased the speed, but we're staying ahead of them, and it's looking quite promising for the breakaway to win this. Now, it says 5k, but we've got to go around the loop.
There are several riders who can't keep up with the pace.
And you'll see now, because the peloton's increased the pace, you might see more dropping off the back of that peloton. So instead of just an A1 group, you might see an A2 and an A3 group. It really depends on the pace of the peloton. What's this blue car doing? No, we're riding through it. I think that's a car at the back of the peloton, and this is a rider at the back of the peloton. I think he fell off earlier, and he's just been caught and dropped. So we're trying to keep the pace as high as we can without damaging the yellow. How far have we got now?
The breakaway has now got over a minute on the pack. Some team managers mustn't appreciate the fact that there is a breakaway, given that the pack has increased its speed. Another attack in the leading group.
So someone's trying to attack, someone's trying to win it. We are a long way out. I'm not going with that. We're too far out. We're too far out. Again, keep your eye on the bottom right. That shows how far to the finish. See, we've caught him. We've not done anything special. We've caught him. He's run out of juice. We need to protect our yellow bar we need to ride at a pace where the peloton doesn't catch us, but by trying to keep our energy as well. It's a fine balancing act. So I'm looking at my gel and I'm looking at my sprint. Watch for me pressing the gel. It's not gone yet. It's 5 kilometre mark coming up. Gone. He's gone again.
And he moves on to the attack. It could be decisive. 10 kilometers remaining.
10k to go. So again, I think he went too early there. You know, 10k is a long way on your own. So this group of 5, we're still staying ahead of the peloton. You can see there's another group behind. There's 17 seconds to that guy in front, apparently. So the guy who's in front now. That's ridiculous. Look at it. It's like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's about 3 seconds. But it doesn't show that, does it? No, it thinks he's ahead by a long way. So that's
the lead
ridiculous.
over the pack is dwindling.
Right, here we go. So I'm going to take the gel now. I've taken it and I'm ready to sprint. Now, as I said, wait for the 1 kilometre or maybe the 1.5 kilometre, depending on who goes. Keep your eye on the other guys. If somebody goes, I'm going with them.
Oh, the list of those left behind goes on rising.
We're not at the 1k banner yet. We're going to go straight on at this junction this time. And now you see I put on the infinite relay button, so I want it to be at the front. I'm going to press this at 1k.
There we go.
There we are.
Sprint
We're sprinting now. That's it. That's it. There's nothing I can do. See the red bar go down. Look at my energy bar go down. It's my sprinting bar. I've run out of sprint. You see it's flashing yellow? That's my gel. That's the gel doing its work.
This
and it's a win.
Well deserved. He displayed a tremendous tenacity.
It's a win for Backblast, or rather, Will Fall Off, because that's his name. And the other guys in the group got caught up by the peloton. So I managed to win it without them. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed that. That's Pro Cycling Manager 2019. Riding as a pro rider. I hope you enjoyed that. I am enjoying the game, actually. I do have some bits, niggles about it, but I'll come back with another one, which is actually being a manager of the team, and I'll bring you that later. So I hope you've enjoyed that. My name's been Backblast. I'll see you next time.